Kansas City. Andrew. Do I know Andrew? Hey, and Niall. I'm going to call you Niall. Suki. All right. Great. Hey, guys. I'm Sam. I'm sitting in for Brian, who has taken off in his car. He needed a break. I think he's going to Idaho on some adventure. He's got family out there. He loves Idaho. He loves Idaho and Montana. I'm right there with him. Most beautiful places on earth. And good, Igor. Igor, I think we've spoken before, so it's good to see you. Cool. All right, where else? Come on, you guys, introduce yourselves. Tell me where you're from. Kansas City, Arthur Bryant's Barbecue. Andrew, I'm going to throw that your way. Although I hear that if you're a true Kansas Citian, that you don't really believe that Arthur Bryant's is the best barbecue in town.
Gates all the way.
Gates? What do you
Gates
know?
barbecue.
What do you know? You're from New Jersey.
I've been to Gates. I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Bryant's good. Yeah, Igor. Percy from Nashville. Hey, brother. Percy and I just spent 2 weeks knocking around together. And that last day, we did the double, which is the bit for you guys who don't know. It's the big 2-week dating week long. And Andrew, who's there in the background, has done it himself, and I, of course, have done it and coached it a bunch of times. And we had a lit up day. And Percy and I and another guy. What do we say? We out approaching, taking everything that we'd learned in the workshop and everything, the intense 2 weeks. We went out and we're talking to girls, and our saying for the day was, let's burn it down. Let's take it ourselves to the limit, say what we've always wanted to say things that have always gotten in our way. And hey, what's up, BJ? And Percy, you got to say that Percy was in flow. Percy was showing up a girl with this little tractor beam that Percy really learned how to really drop and slow down his body, get out of his head. And Percy, you had tractor beam. I think you remember that. Chime in if you remember your tractor beam. He was jumping in front of women and saying what he had to say, but it wasn't like this head energy. It wasn't this shock energy. It was slow. And I think every woman stopped to talk to you. So it was really cool. Hey, BJ, how you doing? Yeah, Percy was lit. Percy was all lit up that day. All right, so we got 17, and it's a little after 5, so I'm just going to start talking. As I said, Brian is out of town, so he asked me, what do I want to talk about today? And I said, there is one thing that is completely overtaking my psyche, my whole body these days, and I wanted to talk about it. And the story is I grew up in the shadow of the High Sierra Mountains. They're like my backyard. I grew up in the San Francisco area, but my father was a great outdoorsman, always taking us on camping trips and even mule packing trips high into the Sierra. Either we were on horseback ourselves, or we were guiding the mules into the mountains. So it was a really deep, important part of me. I spent my whole life in those mountains. But there's one thing I've never done, which was to hike the length of the John Muir Trail. Now, the John Muir Trail is a section of the Pacific Crest Trail, which runs from Yosemite down to Mount Whitney, right through the heart of the High Sierra. And the trail is 222 miles long. It will take about 23 days to complete it with 1, 2, 3 resupplies. And it is something that I've always wanted to do. I've always talked about, I've always wondered every summer, I go, well, when am I going to do the whole John Muir Trail? When am I going to do this? And this year I turned 65. And I just had this little thing, my zing in me was just like, well, I better fucking do this. This is the year. So what I did is I went to, first of all, permits are extremely hard to get. a permit to the John Muir Trail is, they only let 30 people on the trail. You have to get permits, 30 a day. I missed the deadline to get into the lottery. So about 2 months ago, I just started hitting the website every morning at 6 in the morning, every morning at 6 in the morning. And then after about 5 weeks, there was one cancellation popped up. And my reaction to when I got that cancellation, that I saw that cancellation was, oh, fuck. Now I have to do it. I can't turn away from this moment. I have to hit yes, and I have to put my money in. I have to take the permit. And there was a lot of tension in that moment because I knew, and I just cast ahead into the summer in mid-July, which was, there's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of suffering. There's going to be a lot of exhaustion, and it's just going to be me. I'm just soloing it, and that's going to be my life. So that's what I want to talk about is what can we, what is a big life for us? What do we, if we're going, as I mentioned, with Percy on the call, is we're going to just burn it down. We're going to burn down this life. We're going to take it right to the edge. What does that mean to you? In fact, I'd like to see that in the chat. What is that thing, that burning desire in you that you just, every time when you feel it, you either get excited, or every time you feel it, you clamp it down because it's too big. It's just too much. Yeah, man, burn it to the ground, Percy. And while you're thinking, I'm going to show you something. This is how geeked out I am about this trip. This is my, let me see if I can see this. This is my dining room table. This is everything from a sleeping pad. I had to replace a bunch of my gear because it was too heavy. There's a 15-degree bag. This is my satellite communicator. I really struggled with whether I should get one because it just seemed so, I didn't want to be in touch, but I'm going solo. This is a bear vault. This is, you put your food in here and you put that under a rock and hope the bear doesn't take it away. You need it in the High Sierra because there are a lot of bears. And this is the beginning of my food. I'm totally geeking out on this, you guys. I'm completely geeking out. So I see, oh, I love this. Professional race driver. That's the other thing I'm geeking out on, F1 these days, Raymond. I bet you appreciate that. Starting a school. Drifting, drag racing, all of it. Got it. Turns me on. Uduak, I hope I got your name right. Learn to fly and fly cross country on an adventure with the family. See, this is, let me go back. This is great stuff. Traveling a ton. What do I have to lose? I love that, Andrew. Because once you set yourself with these, what are they called? BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, things that seem really unreasonable to the average person, or you could do without that. That really interesting things start to fall into the slipstream. Now, if I go back into my life and I think about the times that really 10 years ago, I was overweight, I drank too much, I was I worked in advertising. I was successful at it. I was completely stressed out. My marriage was shit. My son was struggling. Everything was like fucking hard work. I still went to the High Sierra, but I would take my friends on horses back. I never thought about strapping on a pack and carrying my 40, 50 pounds out into the wilderness. And as I started to, and someday if you guys don't know my story about my nervous breakdown and how I had to reconstruct myself and my life and my whole emotional makeup, that finally came together once I started the fearless work and started really feeling deeply into things. And that is when my life started to change. So here I am on the cusp of not only going to Istanbul for 5 weeks. By the way, I'm going to drop this now. We have a Fearless Man Live in Istanbul in 2 weekends from now, or a week and a half from now, and also an experience that actually has some open spots in. So if you guys are in Europe, get to Istanbul, get a spot in the experience. It is so rare. This thing has been sold out for over a year. And a couple of guys couldn't make it because of COVID things from, I think, England was the problem place. So, oh, Andrew threw up some links. We're going to, hey, Paul Jerome, good to see you. Jonathan, good to see you. So anyway, grab them. This is like, we're going to be in Istanbul. It's going to be crazy good. So here I am about to do this. I'm going off 5 weeks there. I'm coming back for a few weeks, and then I'm going into this big adventure. And I look back. I don't know how I got here. Let me rephrase this. I don't really know how I got here. I mean, I know I put in the work, but I put in a lot of surrender too, surrendering and dropping into my feelings, pushing into the world a little bit more every day. And now here I am on the cusp of heading out in the wilderness for 3 weeks by myself. While this seems kind of normal in my body now, 3 or 4 years ago, before I started really diving into this work, it would have been incomprehensible to me. I would not have had the strength, not just the physical strength, but the mental, the emotional strength to be able to put up with something like this. What's really interesting is while I'm in the midst of this, I started to, and I was getting a little apathetic around women. I'm seeing someone who I just think is great here. She's not the one. But as I was planning this adventure, I was out with the guys on the double, talking to some girls, and I met a girl in at a flea market. She had lively eyes. She was, in her 40s. She's just sexy and fun and intelligent. And we've had a couple of Zoom dates since. She lives down there, but I really had to reflect on this. There's a big slipstream that happens when you start to lock in to what you really want to do. The energy that is pushing you forward creates a slipstream of other things that happen. This is an interesting example. I don't know if these guys are on the call. I don't see them, but we have a container program. Container program is a coached bi-monthly calls all about helping guys be accountable for the things they want to create in their lives. 2 of the guys, their goals were really simple. One's was simply to work on his house. He says, I just have problems keeping myself committed to doing the little things that could help me fix my house up. But once he started stepping into the regularity of that, he started to gain, just his energy started to change. He started getting excited about the projects. He started becoming more specific about the projects. And so that was his for like 2 months. That was just it. We were just talking about the projects around his house. Some level, it seemed kind of meaningless, like fixing up his house. Why would you need coaching or accountability around fixing up your house? But there's something deeper. It is about commitment to himself, grounding as a man, his own masculine journey, even in a way that could make him feel. Even if it wasn't big things, fixing up like painting a room, it had a deep feeling, psychological or feeling in his body. The interesting thing that happened is that out of the blue, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, a girl who he had always had a crush on in high school contacted him out of the blue. They went on a date. They liked each other immediately. And now he says he's got a girlfriend. I think that is the coolest thing. He wasn't looking for that, but he had such a strong calling in a direction that he created this slipstream of energy. Another guy on the call, another guy in the container calls who was wanted to work on some kind of crypto thing, just learning how to do blockchain, some technical thing. I don't understand none of this. And in that, while he did that, more people started feeling his presence as someone who understands the world of crypto. So now he's creating a whole business around something that he didn't plan on creating. So this is the power of these strong masculine goals that can push you forward. So I'm going to pause here a second. I'm going to read some of these uh, things in the chat. And Andrew, let me know if there's anybody on YouTube that wants to jump in. By the way, this is going to be a short call, another 20, 25 minutes, because I'm leading another call on style, personal style, with a professional stylist, Janofri Clark, who's one of our Fearless family members. Jonathan wrote, quitting my W-2 job to manage my own rental properties and doing some motorcycle road racing. I remember, Jonathan, you're really into motorcycles. Paul Jerome, hey, Paul, that's awesome, Sam. Great. So that's the interesting thing about stepping into tension and creating something new. I'm 65 years old. The women I date are much younger than me. I don't go looking for them. I don't go looking for the women who I'm attracted to. I don't necessarily go out hunting for them, but I believe that I have such a strong commitment to my own growth, to this crazy goal of hiking 3 weeks to the heart of the High Sierra, is creating this sort of power around me that even I can feel it. I get up in the morning and what do I think about? I think about what tiny piece of equipment, like how can I shave? This is how geeked out I am. How can I shave an ounce off of my, like a tube of toothpaste? Should I cut the tube in half? Then I discovered bites, these little bite-sized, like a little mints that you actually chew and you brush your teeth with these things called bites. Well, I saved 3 ounces by packing in 60 little bites rather than a tube of toothpaste. That's what I'm thinking about these days. And yeah, it is distracting from some other things, but the amount of energy that it fills me up with is so palpable. And I think that there is a definite connection between me planning this trip and meeting this beautiful woman in LA who I frankly I haven't felt this lit up by a woman in a long time. Raymond writes, yeah, reminds me of dry grazing, getting every ounce out of it is all that counts. Yeah, squeezing. You're squeezing everything out. And it's funny, we have these things called our egos, and they have one job, is to keep us safe, right? And if you are not dead or suffering, the ego says, okay, this is good enough. We're going to keep you right here, and we're going to feed you stories, belief systems that will keep you in this safe zone. So how do we get out of this safe zone? We need to prove to our subconscious by these 1% steps that everything is okay, that I can handle this, I can handle this, I can handle this. A lot of people, like coaches will say, oh, treat your ego like a spoiled 12-year-old child. You got to smack it around or tell who's boss. And I think your ego is much more vulnerable than that. Yeah, I think he's the scared part of you. And once you start to prove to your ego that he is safe, that I got this, pat him on the head, and you bring him along for the ride. Then not only because the ego has a huge amount of energy. I mean, he's got enough energy to keep you down for year after year after year. Once you get him on board, so when his energy starts to shift, like with me with this trip, my initial reaction was, fuck, this is going to hurt. This is 3 weeks of pain. Why would I be doing this? I'm going to be cold. I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere. I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody. All these stories came up. But at some point, once I started to get into motion of the planning, of the purchase of a new sleeping bag, this trust started coming up, and the ego said, okay, I'm going to take my energy and I'm going to put it with yours, and we're just going to go forward. This is the power of 1%. of the 1% action that you can take that saves towards meeting. I'm going to check the Q&A. Great. Okay. Gassan, I saw your email, your text, and we'll look at that. Power of the 1% says that you don't have to accomplish everything at once. That if you start to handle these little tiny bits, your ego starts to go along with you and starts saying, first he says, okay, well, I'm uncomfortable, but I'll try that. Okay, I'm uncomfortable, but going along with that. We are so used to our egos leading us, and we can't feel it. It's almost imperceptible that once we start taking leadership and we put ourselves in front, well, then the ego becomes like this wingman cheering us on. Has anybody had that experience of taking small steps towards something that they felt a lot of resistance to, and by taking the small steps rather than the expectations of the results of big steps, then that starts creating a difference? Send that, put that up in the chat. Andrew, let me know if anybody's on YouTube wants to talk about this stuff.
We got one person who's about to ask a question, I think. I will pass
Okay,
it on.
thank you. Andrew, the ego worked for me when I started to build momentum. Yeah. Andrew, so selling a piano. Now, Andrew, this is, yeah. What was selling a piano is not a small thing to do, right?
Not necessarily, yeah, yeah. It's
What's
a little
small?
emotional.
Talk about that. That's interesting.
Um, it was at my music school. My dad rebuilt it. It was my graduation present, but I don't need it because I have a better one now.
Yeah.
But there's like fear associated with nobody wanting to buy my piano.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And so the small steps you're taking, you find yourself relaxing into that,
Yeah, I do
coming to
releasing on
feel.
it, and then little action steps like I listed on Facebook. I told various people I'm selling it, just a little bit every day. Try to do a little bit, like 1% rule.
Yeah. Yeah. Mateus writes, I started looking for a job and now I feel energy and clarity that's going up. It's amazing. The ego that wants to keep you comfortable is so happy keeping you on your sofa. It is just, that's where it's so comfortable. And so it's great that you start looking for a job and you start to feel the energy and clarity. And then it's like the ego starts to realize being safe is unsafe. That's the big shift. Can you guys feel that? At some point, being comfortable, or the ego's message to you that being comfortable is actually the least safe thing that you can do. That's something to meditate on. Raymond writes, tons of resistance, but then once I worked on a little every day, I got enough momentum to finally finish it off. Took me 3 months after years of wanting to finish it. I love that Raymond wrote that. The years of wanting to finish it. Think of the life energy that has been, not to go into regret or resentment, but the life energy it takes to not do something. You could feel the amount of friction that resistance creates in your body, which is energy, starts to pull energy out of you. Logan writes, yeah, 100% started feeling this last year. Niall, I hope I'm saying that right. I was taking small steps towards doing my college assignments, but I ended up leaving loads of the work until last minute. Can you talk about what could be going on here? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about. Now, there's just too much, the tension of all these college assignments are something that your emotional system just can't handle right now. It makes everything seem big. Now, if you look at your college assignments, and let's say that you envision them as a pile of books and papers, and someone says, do your college assignments. You can't, it's actually impossible to do the college assignments, the stack of papers and books and assignments that you have. But you can do one page of the college assignments. And this is, I know this is really basic, but I do this. If I have a pile of bills and paperwork freak me out. I'm really right brain. I don't quite understand everything. I have problems reading this stuff. But what I do is I take a giant coffee table book and I cover my pile of bills and paperwork with it. I know that seems like denial, but I lift up the book and take out the first piece of paper. It's a tax notice saying, oh no, oh, it says I'm getting a tax refund for $300. Now, to me, a letter from the tax people meant bad news, but if actually I just looked at it, one thing without overloading it myself, it turns out it wasn't what I thought it was. Because life is like a series of the universe doesn't give you problems that you can't solve. There's a problem, there's a solution. It's a law. It's a law of the universe. There's no solution in the resistance. Andrew Rose, it's hilarious because when the ego is comfortable and safe, it always tells you to get up and get moving, like it almost knows you need to break free from it. Let me read that. It's hilarious because when the ego is comfortable and safe, it always tells you to get up and get moving, like you need to break from it. Yeah, and then the ego pulls back on that promise and says, "Nah, come on, I was kidding. Come on, let's be let's be comfortable and safe." Percy writes, that's golden. Staying comfortable is guaranteed to kill you. It'll keep you from living. You know, guys, that's actually a really good thing to meditate on. The danger of comfort. Because death is the ceasing of energy. So anything that doesn't give you energy is in the path, is closer to death than anything that gives you expansion, that gives you energy, even if it's the tension, even if it's feeling more fear or feeling more sadness, or in my case, facing 3 weeks on a trail where I know every day I'm going to be hurting. It's going to be hurt. I'm going to be exhausted, especially the first 5 days over 10,000 feet. I'm going to be really hurting. Now, that thought fills me with energy. I don't know how else to explain it. I was watching the ex-Navy SEAL Jocko talk, and he said, if it sucks, I know I'm going to love it. There's energy in standing up to the sucking. Frank writes, yeah, if you die, you're comfortable. Frank wrote, how do we, Logan, it's better than filling our conscious with fear and doubt. Well, Logan, let me talk about this. We are jumping around a little bit, but in a way we're not. We have this big chasm between what we want and what we do. And we spend a lot of our lives with living in the tension of this big gap, because in the gap lives doubt, lives worry, lives fear, lives lives our ego living in this giant gap. And we kind of get used to life in this gap. The secret to life is that when you're going, let's say you're going out to talk to women and you walk up to a girl, now this gap is getting tighter and tighter between what you want and what you do. And as it gets really close, you can feel when you're standing in front of a woman who you don't know and you want to talk to her and you want to say something sexual to you or flirt with her, you can feel here, it's like taking two live wires and bring them close together. You bring them close together and they go zzz, zzz. That's what happens when what you want, what you do come really close. In the moment that you do speak to her, or you do, you break through the terror barrier just enough. Let's say you talk to the girl. Now, what you want to talk to the girl, and what you do, you're talking to the girl. What you want, what you do are now one. And this moment, you may be filled with a lot of emotion, but you're no longer living in doubt that you have proved something to your deeply into your subconscious that what you want, what you do are now aligned. They are one and the same. This is where life gets, and the feeling that you're left with, the fear, you can feel your body shaking, you can feel your turn on, everything that you're feeling is life. Living with this gap is like numbness, doubt, and fear, and what ifs. You bring these two together. I tell you, I was working with a guy last year talking about this, having lunch, and he contemplated it, and he looked out the window, and he just got up from the table and walked outside, and we saw him through the window, and he talked to a girl, and he said, "I'm sick of living with a gap between what I want and what I do." I'm going to check over the chat here. Frank writes, "How do we meditate on breaking free from staying away from comfort?" Well, that's definitely a revealing question. Breaking free from comfort, I think is what you're saying. Staying away and breaking free are, I think, they're the same. I think someone wrote it in prayer. If you die, you're comfortable. I love that. That you can feel the death in comfort. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with vegging out, watching TV, or just doing nothing. I do it all the time. It's more intentional. That is like, I'm shutting down, than making a lifestyle out of it. But you can feel, Frank, if you can sit and meditate, reveal on the death within comfort, the death within the gap between what you want and what you do, you're going to be face to face with some really, I imagine, some really uncomfortable feelings, which are there for you to drop into. As a polarity release, you can meditate on the feeling of stepping into what you want to do. Say it's starting a business. Now you might have a huge amount of push away on that. You could just say the fear would come up, the grief of not having done it earlier. Well, usually when we start to feel those things, that's when we turn on the TV or we watch a YouTube video, or we shut these things down. If you want to feel more alive, you've got to start feeling everything that life is made out of. So I hope that helps, Frank. It's just a meditation on the death within comfort, and it's going to make you uncomfortable. And then you're going to meditate on the outcome of being outside of your comfort zone, and that's going to make uncomfortable. Basically, Frank, I'm telling you to be really uncomfortable and feel that you can handle it.
We got one from YouTube, Sam.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it actually fits with this. Okay, so the question is from Bosco. I have a wife and a daughter, and I love them, but I have thought about abandoning them because I'm rarely happy. Am I weak-minded for thinking such?
Well, that's a heavy question.
Yeah.
Abandonment is a powerful word. Are you weak-minded? No. I don't see weakness is not asking that question. And we are allowed as human beings to think and feel anything we want. You have thoughts of abandoning your family. Well, it's a thought that's based on a feeling. The feeling, and I don't know what the feeling is, and that's up to you. Just like with any thought or story or belief, there's an emotion that's fueling it. So the question for you is, can you sit with that thought, the thought of abandoning your family, which is a heavy thought. I imagine it's packed with all kinds of feeling. And there's a feeling beneath the belief that you're weak-minded. That's another feeling. So what we teach at Fearless is to take our what is all this deep stuff and shine a light on it and feel it, and knowing it as men that we can feel all this stuff, we can face it, and we don't do everything that we think. Yeah, I read somewhere that, or no, it was a poet or an author said it's not the fear of we don't actually have fear of falling, we have fear of jumping, and that's really true. We when we start to come face to face with how much power we have in our lives, like abandon your family. That's heavy, but just because you think it doesn't mean you're going to do it. It actually becomes more powerful the more you push the thought away, because now you're pushing the emotions away. I hope that helps. That's and what I would do is reach out to any of the coaches at Fearless and talk to us about it. We'd be happy to talk to you about that. We talked about guys who have all kinds of stuff burbling in the background. Jonathan writes, I see there's a couple of questions. Yeah, Jocko, great habit of when something bad or a big obstacle comes up, he says good and faces it. You guys, this is what life's about. This is one thing. This is the one thing that I learned at Fearless, because I spent my life neatly deflecting everything that I was feeling. I had a skill of just like yeah, it was like deflection of all this really heavy stuff and the heavy stuff that made me a full human being. And because subconsciously, I didn't think I could handle it. I didn't think I could handle the amount of grief in my body or the amount of fear. And once I started realizing I was safe, that I could handle it. This makes me, Jonathan, this is what makes me, your chat quote made me think is, when I sit down to reveal, say I'm feeling sad. Today I was feeling really sad. Something came up. And I sat down, I thought, okay, I feel sad. I feel sad in my chest. I'm just going to sit here for 10 minutes. I'm just going to feel as sad as I possibly fucking can. It was like, Jocko was like, give me all this pain. I can handle this pain. So I felt my back. I felt your back represents your masculine frame. Your back says, I can handle it. It's like you have backbone. That's why they call it a backbone. I sit and I feel my back, and I open my heart to all the sadness I can muster. And if you guys remember in the movie Forrest Gump, when Lieutenant Dan straps himself to the mast during the hurricane and screams at the heavens, "Is that all you got? You call this a storm?" That's how I feel with my heavy emotions now. I feel like Jocko, which is like, this is going to suck. Let's see how badly it's going to suck. Yeah. Emotional warriors. That's what we want to become. Logan wrote, thanks for the perspective. You don't get what you want, you receive what you are. That's pretty deep. I like that. Let me jump over the coast. We got another 5 minutes here. Roman writes, I have a fear of rejection and perfectionism complex, meaning every approach should be flawless in my mind, and it stops me from approaching. How do I start with small steps? Well, Roman, the first thing you do is embrace sucking. In fact, go out to suck. In fact, be a perfectionist in how much you suck. It doesn't sound like you have problems approaching women. You're just trying to be so perfect about it. When you start to suck, like, here's an assignment for you. You could walk down the street and say, I want you to turn off your mind. I want you to look at the birds. I want you to just open your heart to things. Walk around in circles. Just be stupid for a moment. Then the first word, and it's called being stupid. This is what I do with my clients. We just drain our energy out of our heads and we walk around and we just go, duh. What is that thing, green thing with the round thing? We just decide we're stupid. And when you're stupid, you're not thinking. And so you just walk up to a girl and go, hi, with your brain turned off. It's actually easier than you think it is. The moment you say hi with your brain turned off, there's going to be a sizzle of something's in the air. Your life begins in that awkwardness. If you try that on, Roman, I think you're going to get a huge amount from it. When I did it, I practiced that for like a week, just on my own practice. I said the dumbest things to women, but they're all really interested in me because I came in without a plan. As a matter of fact, I told several of them, look, I have no idea what I'm going to say. Hi, or hi. That's all I got. That's all I hi. I stood there like an idiot. They're really captivated by it. I hope that helps. Perfectionism is control, trying to control something. There's a feeling underneath your desire to control the outcome of the engagement with the woman. Feel underneath the want for control. You're gonna might be surprised at the feeling that's underneath them. And then reveal on those. Feel this. All right, we guys got 5 more minutes. Then I gotta fly. John writes, when I'm in interactions with women on dates, I notice a feeling of neediness. How do I address this? Well, what is neediness? Neediness is a strong want. I don't know what the neediness is with the strong want. The want that you, sorry, I'm getting distracted by my doorbell. Is it the want for her approval? A want for her love? Is it a want to not make a fool of yourself? There's some strong want in this neediness. Usually in neediness, you're looking to fill a void that you can't fill on your own. Often with neediness, if we go back to that word abandonment, is a very powerful word. If you can feel the abandonment underneath the neediness, that's what I would explore. Of course, the way to bring these to the surface is to stay in action. You don't know really what you feel until you put it to the test, until you put it into the world. Now you're introduced to it in its full force. So keep going, feel your neediness, or you just be just like the perfectionism. Be as needy as you possibly can be. Be the neediest person on earth. Expand yourself with neediness. You might find that you start laughing at yourself because none of this stuff is you. You're not a perfectionist. You're not needy. These are just energies that run through your body. They're based on how you're brought up, your culture, your past lives, or Akashic record, or whatever planet you're from. So, yeah, I want to push the interaction forward. Start there. That's what I would do. All right, going to take a few more questions, and I got to wrap it up. Oh boy, this is Paul writes, yeah, it's all practice. You know, Paul, that's a great point. Is that in a way, life is just a grand experiment. We're just experimenting with the world. It is all practice until it's not practice. I had a big realization today, like, fuck, I am still practicing. Why don't I just pretend or assume that I know exactly what I'm doing and move forward boldly and stop being a student all the time? So actually, I went the other way, Paul. I think I've just decided today that I'm no longer practicing. And I was thinking about women. I was thinking about this girl who I'd been talking to. I'm decided I'm an expert, and it filled me with energy. Like, fuck yeah! All right, I'm an expert. I'm an expert coach. I'm talking to you guys. So I'm just looking at. I'm from Planet Zorp. That's exactly this kind of stupid thing that you would say to a woman that would fill. This is called. If Andrew, I'm assuming that you're saying that is a line that you would say to a woman. I'm from Planet Zorp.
No, just because you said whatever planet you're from.
Oh, you're from Planet Zorp.
I thought I would just chime in. Yeah.
Okay. It turns out I had my Akashic records done, and it turns out I'm a parallel. So I'm just here from a parallel universe. I'm here as a tourist. I'm here to enjoy myself and bring wisdom back to wherever I came from. That's what she said. Feels about right. I'm here to enjoy myself. You know what? I'm going to wrap it up on that. as I said, I'm 65. I been struggling with the last 6 months with what are my goals because we as coaches always talk about guys about their goals. You got to have, well, I want to feel more free. I want to be happy. Yeah, but what do you want to create? How do you know what do you want to create that will show you in the world of form, this real world, that you are proof that you're happy? What will bring you that happiness? Let's make it tangible and real. So we create goals around these things. Whether or not we achieve our goals is besides the point. There's energy in this fantasy of something you want to create in the future. And I realized a few months ago that I didn't have any goals. And that kind of freaked me out because here I am, a coach without goals. What do I do? And then I realized I have one goal. I had two goals actually. One was to find and to experience real love in my life from between me and a woman, like a great love. I feel a little emotional saying that. I and I I've made so many mistakes in my past, had my heart broken so many different ways, was married, blah blah blah. But I feel this is real for me. And so that is in a way that's a very emotional goal because I don't know how it's going to manifest in the self in form. But it does drive me every day to be the best person I can be, to be worthy of this love, or to give myself, to feel enough love for myself um, that I won't need it from another person. So I drop into choice. And the other goal is just to be happy moment to moment. And that seems like such an outrageously and stupid goal to have. But I've taken it on, and and if something, even though it gives me a lot of tension, if it's potential to make me happy, I just go and do that. So to bring it full circle to this trip I'm about to take, I know it's going to suck, but I don't think I'd have it any other way. As a matter of fact, the idea that I'm taking a satellite transponder communicator because there's a big SOS button kind of bums me out. I'm used to going to the wilderness without one, and now I'm going to have one, and I don't know why I brought that up. It just feels like cheating in a way. I want to feel like that, the razor's edge. I want that razor's edge feeling, and at that time in my life, I think the more I can embrace that or invite that, the better. So Frank says he's from Mercury. Okay, right on. Open to all outcomes. You guys, I'll wrap this up with if you are, if anybody is even in the slightest bit interested in flying to Istanbul and joining us for our workshops, that's what the theme of this call is about. It's about seizing big opportunities, being unreasonable, and and just knowing that you can handle whatever happens. You can handle whatever happens. So we have a Fearless Man Live. By the way, there's also an online part of that. You can join us online as well. And then we have the Fearless Experience, the 3-day Fearless Experience, which is going to be an ass kicker. By the way, because all the workshops that we've done in the last year, because there's been this COVID tension about travel and should I talk to people having a mask, and there's the guys who show up are getting the biggest shit. These are the best workshops we've ever had because the guys are stepping into more tension than they ever have before. And this makes a huge difference. So I hope you think about it. All right, Frank, see you later. Good to see you guys. I hope this helps, and go get them. Look for something to suck.
Thanks, Sam.